Welcome back to Crime Watch, the world's most chilling crime show. Today we are going to be reviewing the most terrifying, gruesome murder of all time and the methods that the authority used to pinpoint the murderer. Our case starts in a remote location hardly discovered by man, the ocean. Here lives our victim, Spongebob. One night, Spongebob was putting in extra hours at the Krusty Krab. According to our witness, Mr. Krabs, who was up late counting money in his office, at 11 p.m. a commotion occurred. He told authorities that he realized that Spongebob had been murdered and saw the vault to the secret formula was wide open. The secret formula was stolen. When authorities arrived, they found a single piece of DNA evidence, one strand of hair left at the crime scene. How were they able to figure out who the killer was? Well, they were able to utilize the DNA, the hair, found at the crime scene and amplify it at two different VNTR loci. They ran the evidence on separate gels to create DNA fingerprints and compared the DNA fingerprint of the murderer to a single sample of DNA from each of the suspects. If a suspect sample of DNA does not match the murderer DNA at all alleles exactly, then the detectives can cross that suspect off the list. Let's take a look at how the detectives analyze the evidence. Here is the first gel with VNTR locus 1. Remember, in order for a suspect to remain on the suspect list, they must match the murderer alleles exactly. Let's start out with Spongebob, our victim. His alleles are clearly different than that of the murderer. Therefore, we can gain from this that he did not murder himself. Next up is Mr. Krabs. While the murderer and Mr. Krabs share one allele, their patterns aren't exactly the same, so we can safely say that he was not the murderer either. Next up is Pearl. Pearl again shares one allele with the murderer, but not both. Her DNA therefore does not match the DNA of the individual who left the strand of hair at the crime scene, so she is off our suspect list. Next on our suspect list is Plankton. Plankton shares the same banding pattern or alleles with the murderer. This means that he could possibly have committed the crime. We'll keep him on our list, but we can't determine if he is the murderer until we look at our next locus. Finally, we have Squidward. As we can see, Squidward also shares the same alleles in the VNTR locus 1 as Plankton and the murderer. This means he too is a prime candidate on our suspect list. Let's check out the evidence from the second gel with VNTR locus 2. Because we already crossed 3 suspects off of our list from the information in locus 1, we don't really have to include them when looking at our second locus. In order for a suspect to be the murderer, they must match all alleles on both loci. Let's look at our prime suspects, Plankton and Squidward. Here we see Plankton's alleles don't match the murderer's alleles for VNTR locus 2. This means that he can't be our criminal. Squidward, on the other hand, has a banding pattern that matches the murderer's exactly. His alleles matched perfectly for both loci, meaning that he could have left the hair. The authorities brought Squidward in for questioning, where he admitted that he killed SpongeBob and stole the secret formula so that he would never have to work a day in the dusty old Krusty Krab, listening to SpongeBob's annoying laugh ever again. However, this is not where our story ends. Police felt a little suspicious about the involvement of Mr. Krabs and Pearl in the crime. His daughter is a whale, yet he is a crab? The police had a hard time believing this, so they once again turned to their 2 VNTR locus gels. When determining paternity, the child and parent do not have to have the exact same alleles in order to be related. This is because the child must receive an allele from the mother and one from the father. Therefore, the child will share one allele with their father and one allele or band with their mother. In locus 1, we see that Pearl and Mr. Krabs share this allele, and in locus 2, they share this allele. Therefore, because the pair share one allele in both loci, they could definitely be related. The police, satisfied with their answer that they could be related, convict Squidward of full charges of solo premeditated murder.